The story of how Kawhi Leonard finessed and effectively stole from the Los Angeles Clippers starts all the way back in San Antonio. It starts all the way back in 2017 in the 2017 Western Conference Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. Hey guys, my name is Emmanuel Kamia, and before I jump into this video, I just want to ask you guys to give me the HBO special, that is the Help a Brother Out, and you can do that by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a like underneath this video if you like this kind of content. Aside from that, back to the Kawhi Leonard story. So yes, the story of Kawhi Leonard finessing the Clippers goes all the way back to when Zaza Pachulia facilitated one of the dirtiest moves we've ever seen in the playoffs. Effectively, what he did was he played a big role in breaking Kawhi Leonard's foot. Little did everyone know that that injury would lead to the Toronto Raptors winning their first ever championship. And it did so because after a lengthy timetable set for Kawhi Leonard by the San Antonio medical staff, Kawhi Leonard refused to return to the lineup after that timetable was up. He refused to listen to what the doctors in the San Antonio Spurs organization were telling him and sought help elsewhere. That's what led him to go all the way to New York for a second opinion, an opinion that confirmed his suspicion that he wasn't ready to return to the lineup. Although everybody else, including the San Antonio front office, San Antonio players, thinking he was just exaggerating. And because he wouldn't return to the San Antonio's lineup, and because of how important he was to the San Antonio's lineup, evident by how the Warriors were losing to a fully healthy San Antonio Spurs team, Greg Popovich and the front office decided to do something about this. So what Greg Popovich did was he enlisted players, teammates of Kawhi Leonard, to effectively come after him in the media. So what happened was Tony Parker came out and he basically blasted Kawhi Leonard, saying that he'd had injuries in the past before that he's played through. He's seen Tim Duncan play through injuries and the greats just learned to deal with it. This effectively was the straw that broke the camel's back for Kawhi Leonard. Why? Because in sports, not just basketball, but in sports in general, there are really two things in locker rooms that people don't discuss. And that is a teammate's injury and a teammate's contract. You don't talk about another man's money, and you don't talk about another man's injury because you don't know what he's going through. You don't know what the recovery is. You don't know what the pain of that is. And so when teammates came out and critiqued Kawhi Leonard, to him, it was the breaking of a trust that he had with the team and organization. And everybody knew, Kawhi Leonard knew, and the media knew that Tony Parker was just effectively a mouthpiece for Greg Popovich. And because of that betrayal, Kawhi Leonard felt that there was no need for him to stay in San Antonio any longer. And because of that, he demanded a trade. This further angered the San Antonio Spurs management. And so they thought they would stick it to Kawhi Leonard. They thought that if he wanted a trade, they would give him a trade. They thought they would send him away as far away as possible from his home of Los Angeles to a place where he would just slip into irrelevancy and would have zero chances of winning a championship. And so they picked Toronto, the Toronto Raptors. But inversely, the Toronto Raptors were making a gamble. They were making a gamble because they were going to invest, they were going to trade pieces for a guy who, A, had a string of injury issues and hadn't played for a whole year. And B, they were going to trade for a guy who had stated publicly that if he wasn't traded to either the Los Angeles Clippers or the Los Angeles Lakers, whichever team he'd get traded to, he would only stay there for a year because he wanted to come home. So effectively, the Toronto Raptors were going to be getting him for a one-year rental. So that's a big gamble to make. But nonetheless, Masai Ujiri pulled the trigger and traded for Kawhi Leonard. The 2018-2019 season started and time went on, and essentially everything panned out pretty well for both parties, in the sense that for the Toronto Raptors, out of a really risky gamble, they got out of it their first ever and only championship with Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi got out of it load management. Kawhi was allowed to take games off in the name of load management. And this is what Kawhi Leonard fell in love with. The idea that he could only play 60 games, not have to play back-to-back games, and still manage to win a championship, that was very enticing to him. And that is what sparked the controversy of load management. Kawhi Leonard is who popularized it. And when he won a championship in Toronto, everything changed. Everyone wanted a piece of Kawhi Leonard. Remember, he was a free agent now, and he had just won a championship for the Toronto Raptors. And prior to that, the only other time he had played in the last 2 years was with the San Antonio Spurs in the 2017 conference finals against the Warriors, a game in which they were destroying the Warriors. So everyone saw Kawhi as a rival to LeBron James. Kawhi-Mania was in full effect. And because of that, Kawhi had all the leverage and was holding all the cards. He could ask for damn near anything he wanted. But in the offseason of 2019, Kawhi stayed true to his word that he was going to sign with a Los Angeles team. And so he chose the Los Angeles Clippers, even though he was courted by LeBron and the Los Angeles Lakers. He chose the Clippers, but it came at an expense to the Clippers. And it came at an expense to Steve Ballmer, the owner. Because Kawhi Leonard made the demands that in order for him to sign with the Clippers would need to offload their young talent and draft capital to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Paul George because he wanted to play with another star. He also demanded the max amount of money that the Clippers could give him. In addition to all those demands, there were reports that Kawhi's team, and by his team I mean his uncle, because Kawhi's uncle is his agent. Kawhi's very linked with his family, and he values family a lot. There were reports that his uncle demanded that the Clippers give him a private jet and part ownership of the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, that is absurd. Those are crazy demands. Never in the history of the NBA had a player that was playing had ownership of a team, especially a team that he was playing for, or had a private jet of his own that he didn't travel with the team. But you have to remember, Kawhi-Mania was in full effect. The minute Kawhi got to Los Angeles, he ran a New Balance ad that Los Angeles was his city, effectively just sneak dissing LeBron James. And he was right to do so. I mean, everybody and their grandmother thought that with the roster that the Clippers had, because you have to remember, that roster prior to Kawhi and Paul George joining had beaten the Kevin Durant-led Warriors 2 times in the playoffs. They lost in 6 games without a star. So everyone thought if you added 2 stars like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to that roster, nobody could compete. They thought that that team would rival the Lakers and rival the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference. That's what led Patrick Beverley to basically say this quote. And this quote is very infamous and very ironic because of how everything is panned out. Patrick Beverley thought that because he was on a team with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, his time was now. Stephen Curry was done. And it's ironic because of a number of things. Number one, Stephen Curry is just coming off of another championship, right? So that's wrong. It's not, your time hasn't come. Secondly, ever since that quote was said, Patrick Beverley has been traded 2 times to the Timberwolves and to the Lakers. He's now playing with his nemesis, Russell Westbrook, on the Lakers. Number 3, the roster that inherited Kawhi Leonard is no longer there. The guys that made the Clippers an enticing place to go, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, that batch of players are no longer there. And the reason they're no longer there is because they felt that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were getting too much of a special treatment for not doing anything. They were getting treated like royalty, but they hadn't accomplished anything. And so there was animosity and there was controversy between the players in the locker room, and it ended up basically fracturing the team. In the time since Kawhi Leonard has been with the Clippers, he has nothing to show for. Not a championship, not an MVP, nothing. The only thing he has to show for is the firing of his coach. Remember, he also blew a 3-1 lead in the playoffs in 2021. I think it was in the 2nd round. Like Anthony Davis, he's now more known for being street clothes than being an NBA player. In a time since he's been in Los Angeles, has played 116 of the 253 eligible games that he could have played. This season alone, Kawhi Leonard has only played 7 games, but does not have a major injury. The last time Kawhi got injured was in June of 2021. That's a year and a half removed from it. And that injury was torn ACL. That injury takes 8 to 12 months to recover. So he is about 6 months removed from where he should be fully healthy. Yet he's still not playing. He's resting, but resting for what? We don't know, because he doesn't play. Resting from what? We don't know, because he should be healed. So effectively, he is sitting on a bench and he is eating up all of the Clippers' money with nothing in return. And to me, that is just highway robbery. That is how Kawhi Leonard finessed the Los Angeles Clippers